The sound of tearing metal cut through the frozen sky as the plane slammed into the white wilderness, fire blooming against the snow like a wound that refused to close. In that chaos, when most people ran or froze in fear, one man moved forward without hesitation. A single father with tired eyes and shaking hands pulled a wounded female police officer from the wreckage, carried her through smoke and ice, and saved her life. And then, just as suddenly as he appeared, he vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions, gratitude, and a story that would haunt everyone who tried to find him. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet heroes who never ask for recognition, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Grandma Dearie. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The plane had been small, a regional flight cutting through a brutal winter storm, the kind of storm that makes even experienced pilots uneasy. Among the passengers was a single dad named Aaron, traveling with his young daughter after visiting a distant city for temporary work. Life had been hard since his wife passed away years earlier, leaving him to balance grief, responsibility, and a constant fear of failing the one person who depended on him. Across the aisle sat a female police officer, returning home after escorting a suspect and finishing paperwork that had stretched her shift into exhaustion. She was off duty now, uniform jacket folded beside her, mind drifting toward the comfort of home. None of them knew that in minutes, their lives would collide in fire and ice. When the engine failed and the plane went down in a remote, frozen field, the impact shattered windows, tore seats loose, and turned screams into a single desperate roar. Snow rushed in through broken metal, flames licked the fuselage, and the smell of fuel filled the air. Aaron's first instinct was his daughter. He shielded her with his body, dragged her free, and pushed her toward other survivors crawling away from the wreckage. Only after he knew she was safe did he turn back. That choice, made in a heartbeat, would change everything. Inside the broken plane, the female officer lay unconscious, trapped by twisted metal, blood streaking her face as fire crept closer. Aaron ignored the heat burning his skin and the fear screaming in his chest. He forced his way through debris, cut his hands on jagged edges, and pulled her free with a strength he did not know he had. He carried her out into the snow as the plane exploded behind them, the shockwave knocking him to his knees. He wrapped his jacket around her, pressed his gloves against her wounds, and stayed there until rescue teams arrived hours later. By the time medics reached them, his clothes were soaked with blood and snow, his body shaking from exhaustion and cold, but he refused treatment until she was safely loaded onto a stretcher. When authorities tried to thank him, to take his statement, to record his name for the reports and the news, they found only his daughter waiting quietly with other survivors. Aaron was gone. No one saw him leave. No one knew where he went. It was as if the storm had swallowed him whole. The female officer survived, but recovery was slow and painful. Broken ribs, internal injuries, scars that would never fully fade. Yet the physical wounds were easier to face than the unanswered questions. Every night in the hospital, she replayed the moment she woke briefly in the snow, the blur of a man's face above her, the feeling of being carried away from death. She knew she was alive because someone had chosen her life over his own safety. She also knew she did not even know his name. News of the mysterious rescuer spread quickly. The story of the single dad who saved a cop and vanished captured the public's imagination. People called him a hero, a guardian angel, a symbol of everything good that still existed in a harsh world. The police department launched a quiet search, not to question him, but to thank him, to make sure he and his child were safe. Weeks passed with no leads. No hospital records matched his description. No relatives came forward. It was as if he had erased himself. What no one knew was that Aaron had vanished out of fear, not pride. The crash had reopened old wounds he had spent years trying to bury. He had once worked near aviation equipment, a job he lost after a workplace accident that left him injured and unemployed. Medical bills, debt, and the responsibility of raising a child alone had pushed him to the edge more than once. He lived quietly, moving from temporary work to temporary shelter, avoiding attention because attention often brought problems. Saving the officer had been instinct, not a bid for recognition. Once he saw the flashing lights of authorities, panic took over. He took his daughter's hand and walked away into the snow, choosing invisibility over praise. Life did not become easier after that. Aaron and his daughter struggled through cold nights and uncertain days. Yet something had changed inside him. The act of saving another life reminded him that he was more than his failures, more than his past. He carried that truth silently, using it to survive when hope felt thin. He never told his daughter the full story, only that sometimes people help others and do not stay to be thanked. Months later, the female officer returned to duty, scars hidden beneath her uniform but never forgotten. She carried gratitude like a weight and a light at the same time. She began